the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
Welcome, I am Samantha Santiago, and this is Business Story of the Week.
Fantastic. And that is a lovely Samantha. She's our guest for today. I'm Joshua, your host. And Samantha, when we lose ourselves, how do we find our way back? Do you have a short answer to that?
A short answer. You have to reflect, be accountable, and know where you want to go from that point. So, and I think the first step before that, I was going to say the first step before that is actually accept that something's wrong. Like, be okay not being okay. That would be like the first one. And then reflect, accept, and then find out how you'd like to move forward.
I love that. I love that you have an answer to that question. I understand it's quite a deep question, but it's quick. It's quick that we have an answer to that because people spend their lives looking for an answer to that. And we need to unravel that a little bit on this episode. And of course, that's what we're going to do today. To all our audience and listeners out there, ladies and gentlemen, Samantha Santiago, PhD, is a two-time award-winning author, spiritual coach, and holistic leader, and a six-time Badge Award-winning presenter for Loss of Self. Using her BA in Communication, MBA, and PhD in Metaphysics, she guides those in emotional or mental limitations out of feeling lost, stuck, unloved, broken, or without their light. She bridges the religion and metaphysics to guide clients towards self-clarity, confidence, and spiritual rejuvenation. And today, Samantha will share that with us, her experience, her insight, her wisdom. Samantha, what was this young Samantha like? Was she always spiritual?
Yes and then no. So I actually was raised I was raised in the Catholic Church. I went with Catholic school, but I actually was baptized Episcopal. And then I went through school, and then when I went to college, I never really stopped believing in God, but I stopped participating in believing in God. And so that transition between being active and then not being active was around the age of 17 and 18. So yes, very much in the church and doing community service. And then I left and things went a totally different route.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's quite to unravel there, quite some stories in there as well. And we love stories on here. And I want to thank you again for coming on the show, Samantha. And there's a lot of things that we need to unravel, like I said, but it's important that we ask that origin story because we need to lay out the foundation, right? What was the young Samantha like? What was your journey like? Today, you've studied both religion and metaphysics. Talk to us a little bit about that journey, but also how do those two disciplines complement each other? How do they overlap when it comes to guiding people rediscover themselves?
Okay, so first off, I super love that question because not many people view it that way. They actually view religion and metaphysics as two things that should never meet. So the story of this is that
right? Oh my goodness.
It truly is. I was called a new ager once and like super shunned for doing this. But the truth is that I got to this point. So like I said, when I left for college, I ended up on a different journey. So that journey consisted of partying Thursday through Friday. I was getting drunk and it didn't matter. Like I had bad relationships, low self-esteem. So when I was younger, my parents got a divorce. And so when they had that divorce, I ended up recreating life to create almost a survival mode. And I redefined what love was and how to process things. And I was going to be resilient and self-sustaining, and I didn't need anybody. And when I got to college, it worked. And then I went to Ecuador to study abroad, and I found myself throwing up over the toilet in the middle of the night with my host family, saying to myself, God, I am not doing this okay on my own, and I need help. I don't know what to do, but I know that I hate myself right now. And when I came home, I went back to school and I was at a party, another one, right? And I was with my friend and I said, hey, I think I have a drinking problem. And so we looked up on Google, and I haven't been able to find the chart, but we looked up on Google and I had alcoholism, which is a step below being an alcoholic. And the biggest thing was that when I said, God, I have an issue, like my world kind of started to change. I ended up finding this guy that I wanted to be with, and he was like, well, you can't drink. So then I cut drinking out cold turkey. It took 5 years to get over. And as I wanted to love again, I realized that I had redefined love, and I thought that I could have someone love me and not love them back. And then I found out, well, that doesn't work. And so then I thought, I'm broken. Like, hold on here. Like, something's totally wrong. And if I can't love somebody else as deeply as I feel I should, what's the point of me living? And so I ended up, fixating on this thought of I have to love. I have to figure out how to properly love. And so that was a 10-year journey. And so when I say that this is a great question, it's because in that journey, I said, God, I don't want to know the you that they've taught me in church. I don't want to know the you that a preacher wants to tell me. I want to know the you that is real. I want you to show me who you are the way that I need it, because you know I need it that way. I want the truth. And that statement right there is what led me to understand the blending of religion and metaphysics. And so when I started to actually date this guy, I took 10 years to heal essentially from everything before that point. And I studied religion. I've read several Bibles. I started to teach myself Hebrew. I stopped drinking, like I said. I stopped going to the club. I completely left field, just bypassed everything that I thought. And I found that with these courses in metaphysics, that the way that God and religion work together is God is this thing you can believe in. And the reason you believe is because you know that there's something more. So for instance, if anything goes wrong in the country, what's the first thing we say? We say, God bless us. And so I found that when you are reverting back, having so many people revert back to who God is, there has to be substance there. And from my experiences, it came true. And then with metaphysics, I realized that the spiritual realm is just working alongside. Metaphysics is studying purpose and life and the depths of the universe. And so I've processed it, and I realized through asking God to show me that your purpose is to love. The reason we fall into loss of self is because that love is broken. And if you heal from the broken love, you discover which level it is that you break on. You can then figure out how to heal. And then when you heal, you share that wisdom, which shares connection, which is, again, love. And then through that love, you create a consciousness through people around you, which is essentially the wisdom we share. And then that wisdom creates compassion for the next person. And essentially, when you have compassion for the next person and yourself, you're able to love yourself, those around you, and the life there is. And life that is from God. And that love is actually called agape love. And it's the selfless love of God towards man, man towards God, and the world around. And so in relating to holistic wellness, which is more so what people know, that would be your spiritual wellness. And so that's in a longer nutshell. That's how those two actually blend together on a very deep level.
I love it. I love it. Of course, I love that you said it in a backdrop of your story, which is very important, right? It's very important that you got to share your journey, because what a relatable journey, Samantha, right? Like alcohol problems, addictive problems, feeling lost and feeling like what is it that am I here for, right? And you've had to go through that journey, and you've had to overcome a lot of things as well, and you've had to overcome self-love as well, like not loving yourself. And again, it's relatable because a lot of people have had to discover that love elsewhere in the wrong places, right? But also, at the same time, we never really knew, we were never really taught that self-love is, we can always find that in all of us. And again, I love that unravel to us that a little bit. I know it took years to learn metaphysics as well, but also surrounding your message, which I know central to your message is about anchoring yourself in self-love. First off, let's shed a little bit of the stereotypes on the metaphysics as well, if you can. And of course, I didn't even know, or at least most of our audience listeners know, maybe up until this episode, didn't know that you could get a PhD on metaphysics, right? So, I mean, talk to us a bit about that journey as well, and why self-love? Why would self-love be an anchor to, when you're feeling lost, and throughout your journey, why was it that self-love was the anchor to the things you've had to overcome?
Okay, so metaphysics is a non-secular degree. So most people will think like
Yes.
accounting, a 4-year degree, it's very controlled and structured. So with non-secular degrees, those are more of your religious and spiritual sort of degrees, and the government can't quite control that and create a much more rigid situation as far as school structure. And so I took several classes that pertained to things that interested me. And that really, I don't know, it helps open your eyes. I didn't really know it was a degree either. I just had the itch after my MBA, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to go figure out what I was interested in so long ago, because the topics I took were things that I was doing in elementary school that I didn't know. Like I was doing numerology in elementary school. And so it'd be like 18. I'd be like 8 + 1 is 9. Or I'd just make the numbers as small as I could. And, you know, I don't necessarily use everything that I learned, but the metaphysics really is for me in the way that I use it. Some people use it more as in like reflexology, which is using your feet, or chromotherapy, which is color therapy, aromatherapy, which is the smells that,
Wow.
with the diffusers. So there's various ways you can use it. But for my circumstances, I used it to understand the things that I was interested as a youth and trying to connect to God more. So I did prayer and Amadeus, which is a Brazilian based shamanic healing. And it's not necessarily like I am the force of power. I'm just a channel to ask God to use. I don't use it, but that's just one of the courses that I did take. And so the reason that self-love is so important when you're down is because if you can't love yourself, or if you haven't been able to love your journey, you're going to have a void. And that void is going to want to be filled. That's where you're going to get your substance abuse from, or your obsession with a relationship and maybe become too possessive, or just charge after materialism. So that void has to be filled. And if you can love yourself, not like I go to the spa on Saturday, but if you can say, my journey stunk up into this part, but I got here, and these blocks, these stumbling blocks have led this path for me to be here. And you turn around and you say, but look how much I sustained. I love that I was determined. I love that I had survival
Yes.
mode.
Yes.
I love myself because I'm still here and I still have hope. Even if you're feeling down, if you can acknowledge you're feeling down, that's because there's an ounce of something that says you can change. And going biblically, it's like you only need the hope the size of a mustard seed,
Mhm.
faith the size of a mustard seed. And that's about all you have when you're in loss of self. It's like you're kind of in this dark corner sometimes, and you don't know where the light's going to come from. And so to use self-love, for me, I'm biracial, and I had experiences with racism from both sides. And so for me, I have to learn to love myself, because who else is going to love me? And if I can't love myself, then that means I don't have love to give other people. And that's where that compassion rolls back into to create connections and share love and get to agape. And so even if you're in a dark space, if you can just love where you've been, then you can have enough love to sustain you in that one moment. And it's just moment to moment, decision to decision. And then that's how you really start to change things for yourself.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you always keep coming back to agape, unconditional love, right? Like there's no conditions to it. Unconditional love, most importantly, though, for yourself, right? Like no conditions behind it. Just love yourself and always go back to that. And I think I think that's a story that we need to talk about for everyone's story, by the way. Like again, the similar stories that may have had to overcome the same one as you, but always things to go back to, especially spiritually, which is what you teach today to your audience of listeners, to our audience listeners today, what you teach on your website as well. You talk about journey through self-loss. That was like again, like a badge award winning presenter again for the loss of self. First of all, I also opened with this question, which I love that you had a quick answer to it. We talked about when you lose yourself, how do you find your way back? At first is, of course, acceptance. And I think that's the hardest part. Like acceptance means accepting like, hey, I effed up. I screwed up. It happened. I did these things, I'm accepting what they are, and that understandably is the hardest part. But then you also talked about these three steps, which is, before we get to the point of reflecting on what it is, so we could continue to, thrive and improve from that. Unravel to us a little bit about this, Samantha, and of course, how do you relate that to when you talk about the journey through loss of self, and how did you come about the answer that we just discussed earlier?
Okay, so I'm going to try and remember all of that. Okay, the
Oh, I'm so
journey.
sorry. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll piece it up for you. First of all, the journey through loss of self. Talk to us a bit about that. You talked about it's like award winning or badge winning. What is it exactly, so our audience and listeners are aware of that and lay out the foundations of that?
Okay, so I won. How you mentioned before, I won 2 book awards. They're Christian author book awards, and then I won 1 spiritual coaching award, and I also earned 6 badges when I did a presentation on how to use love to create global peace, and that was at a mental health
That's it. I
conference
love
for
that.
a university. So that's the awards, and so the journey is the fact that going a little deeper, everyone lives a spiritual journey. Like essentially your body functions and it
Yes.
doesn't need you. Life is experienced on the emotional side. You're happy, you're sad, you're offended. The treasures of your life are going to be the love, the time, anything intangible. So where does that fit in? It doesn't fit into a physical form. And that's why it's in a spiritual form, which again relates to the highest self, which is spirituality or your spiritual self, spiritual wellness. So when you're on your spiritual journey, or as many people say, your journey, it's the ability to assess what you're doing and what you've done to learn the lessons so that you can change and elevate yourself. It could be through perspective, through response, or
There you
or
go.
just
There you go.
acknowledgement. And so I think I'm losing track. What was the next part of it?
The next part of that, is perfect. You're on track because you talk
Okay.
about that, the journey of the loss of self. It's a presenter that you were talking about, and then now I'm trying to circle back on how we opened up on this show. Is to open to that opening question. Really, it's like when you're lost, how do you begin to find yourself, right? And now we're talking about. I love that question, or I love your answer to that. I love that you had a short answer to it. But now I'm asking you to unravel that to us a bit. First off, you need to accept. You need to be able to accept the things that you've done in the past and that these things happen. But what were those steps again that we needed to take? Unravel to us that a little bit, and how do we rediscover ourselves? How do we find ourselves when we feel lost?
Okay. So the first step that I had said was to acknowledge something's wrong. So before you can accept, you have to acknowledge something's wrong. That means I have an alcohol problem. I have a gambling problem. I am not committing to people. I'm scared of love. Those things that seem normal, but like kind of at home, you question why you're doing them, or maybe you actually just flat out cry and say, I'm not authentic. This world is like literally flooded with inauthenticity. And it's that exterior shell based on your ego that you've got to move past and deal with the emotions. And so when you are able to say, hey, I'm not okay, then you can start to review, okay, why do I think I'm not okay? Where do I think I've gained this fear or gained this pain or this stumbling block? And when you can analyze that portion, then you can take the next step, which is saying, okay, what was my role in that? How did I actually participate? A lot of people hold on to the pain of so-and-so offended me, but so-and-so couldn't have offended you if you weren't participating in the activity. So to release yourself and really be able to objectively view it, you have to say, okay, I didn't set boundaries. I didn't say stop. I did say stop and they didn't, and they did, but I should have never gone and put myself in the same situation again. There could be a plethora of ways that somebody could have entertained or continued this, not on purpose, but it happened. And so instead of saying this person offended me, you say, okay, how did I interact? And then you say, okay, well, I did X, Y, Z. This person did offend me, and these feelings came from this lesson I learned in life. Then when you can see those two things, you can say, now if I'm put in the next situation, how do I respond differently? How do I become more aware? How do I protect myself so that I don't feel uncomfortable where maybe I can't say no? Like, oh, you want to go out for another drink? You're like, yeah, I probably shouldn't, but oh, they're going to not want to be friends with me. So I'm going to go drink some more just to be accepted. And that's where the change, and this is the journey. It's okay to be okay, not be okay. Okay, what's happening? What happened? How did I have a participation in it? How do I want to change it? And then how do I love myself enough, even though all this stuff has happened right now or through my life? And where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And reestablishing that identity, not from an ego-based exterior, but from the authentic core of who you are. And that would be essentially the long journey. And you'd probably need to journal or write out something, because a lot of the times it feels good to just get it out of your hand because it floods out of your body. And that allows for more space to actually say, okay, I'm scared, but why am I scared? Okay, I don't like this person. They're making me feel bad a lot. And you can start to really start to analyze things from a different perspective and give yourself space so that you don't feel like life's happening to you, but you're starting to really see that you're an active participant in it.
I love that. Being an active participant in it, like just making sure that, like that's that I love that part. I want to highlight that part because part of it is saying like most of us when it comes to feeling lost, feeling, shame, feeling, all the guilt surrounding, whatever our past is, we just kind of freeze. We don't want to relive that. We don't want to dig up all of that. But when you say that you're being an active participant to it, how do you do that? And you've just basically told us all the you basically just told us all that step. You basically told us how to kind of like piece that together. When you're feeling broken, feeling everything's everywhere, and you don't know how to reflect on it. I feel like I want to highlight that part there. There's like being actively participating in your own self discovery, in your own way of rediscovering yourself. And I understand, of course, Samantha, this is precisely what you teach to your clients, to people, and on your website, confidencefaith.com. To our audience and listeners out there, if you feel like this resonates with you, I invite everyone to go check out Samantha's website, confidencefaith.com. Samantha, where else can we connect with you? Where else can we learn more?
I am on Instagram. So it is _confidence_faith_. And that's really, the website has everything at the bottom, but those are my main two hubs that I kind of rotate with.
Absolutely. All right, fantastic, Samantha. Thank you so much again for coming on to the show. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for the love. Thank you for everything that you've shared with us today, Samantha. One last bit of wisdom. Of course, I wouldn't want to let you go to before if we don't wrap this up properly. One last bit of wisdom that you would love to leave behind the audience today. What would it be? Take us home.
It would be that as much as life seems to happen to you, it also happens for you. It can happen for you to help somebody else.
Oh
It can
wow, I
happen
love that.
for you to elevate your own self. But shielding yourself with somebody who's fake will never bring you fulfillment. So please, please recognize if you're not okay. It's okay. And just decide where you want to go and take baby steps to get there.
That's it, precisely. And we've come full circle. You also opened up with that. It's okay to not be okay. And today, you remind us that again, like it's okay to not be okay. Just it's okay. We have people like Samantha who will guide you through all of that. And again, once again, confidencefaith.com. Go check her out on Instagram. Go connect with her. Go chat with her. Samantha, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. To all our audience and listeners out there, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed Samantha and her guest and her message today. Thank you for watching the episode. We will see you on the next one. Bye bye now.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.